Hi boys and girls, Miss Cohen here, and today in celebration of Earth Day, we are going to learn how to draw an iceberg. I can't wait to see what you make, and thanks for watching. All right, boys and girls, it's Miss Cohen here, and today we are going to learn how to draw an iceberg. Icebergs are large chunks of ice that have broken off of glaciers, and they come in all shapes and sizes. One of the really cool things about glaciers is that they are actually way bigger than they look like. We can only see just a small portion of them floating on top of the surface of the ocean. Most of that iceberg is actually underneath the water. So to do this activity, you're going to need paper. It can be white paper, lined paper, whatever you have, and a pencil. If you would like to use colored pencils, you can. If you want to use crayons, you are welcome to. Really, all you need is a pencil and, just in case, an eraser. Now, to get started, we're going to draw the ocean level. We're going to do that about 2/3 of the way up our paper. Nice, simple, straight line, just like that. Now we're going to draw the top of our iceberg. Now, like I said, icebergs come in all shapes, so yours doesn't have to look just like mine. We are going to be using mostly geometric shapes, triangles, quadrilaterals, trapezoids. So it's going to start with something like a zigzag. Something like that. You want to leave a little bit of room on both sides. This is just the top of your iceberg. Next, you're going to add about 3 or 4 dots inside this shape that you created. Doesn't really matter where they are. All right, the next step, we're going to start connecting the corners of our shape to those dots and to each other in any way you want. Now, the more of these shapes that you make, the longer it's going to take for you to shade your iceberg, but that's fine. It's really good practice. All right. Again, yours does not have to look just like mine. There are all different kinds of icebergs. Yours should look unique. All right, we're gonna pause there. That's kind of our basic outline of our iceberg. I know it doesn't look like much, but we haven't added our shading yet, or our value. Next, we're going to go ahead and add the main part of our iceberg, which, as we know, is underneath the water. This is kind of that same process, just flipped upside down. So, drawing kind of almost like a zigzag. Something like that. Remember, yours is going to look different than mine. This time, let's add 4 or 5 dots on the inside of that shape. All right, and let's do the same thing, connecting the corners of our line or our shape to the dots and to each other. If you'd like to use a ruler and you want to make these look extra straight, you definitely can. I'm just going to do it freehand. Let's do one here. Almost done. Now, generally you want the shapes underneath to be a little bit bigger than the shapes up top. Just helps it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to add a couple more shapes up top, kind of closing up some of these spaces. There we go. Okay, here's our basic shape of our iceberg. Next is adding value. We've had a lot of practice with adding value over the past couple of drawing activities that we've done together. Value is just another way to say shading. It's going from dark to light using whatever art material you have. Now with the pencil, we know that we add value by pressing really hard to make it dark to medium, not pressing so hard to light. So I'm barely pressing at all. To color in our iceberg, we're going to need about 4 values, so dark, medium light, and light. The top of our iceberg, what's above the water, as we know from pictures, is a lot lighter than what's underneath the water. So we're not going to use our darkest values up on the iceberg. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I mean, and then I'm going to skip ahead so you can see what the finished version looks like. So I'm going to add a light value here. So I'm just pressing very lightly, and of course you can do this with another art material if you want. Coloring in lightly. Now you don't want the same two values to be touching each other, so I'm not going to also color this one in lightly, because then it's just going to look like one giant shape instead of three separate ones. So this one I'm going to do just a little bit darker. But still not the absolute darkest that I can. I'm going to save that for underneath the water. All right, let's do another light value. Okay, so I finished the top of my iceberg. I've left several of the shapes white. Of course, icebergs are made of ice, and ice normally looks white or very light blue, so it's okay to leave some of them white. I'm going to move on to the area underneath the water. I'm going to use more of my dark values here, so I'm not going to have any white, but I can still have some that are pretty light. It's going to be that same step again. You're really taking your time here. You're practicing your craftsmanship. You want your shading to look smooth and not all scribbly and crazy. It's going to be a really good, relaxing sort of exercise. All right, it's kind of following that same rule where I'm not going to let any shapes that are next to each other have the same value. So this one's going to be darker. Actually, the more that you shade with your pencil, you're going to start making it duller. You can use sort of the side of your pencil, and it'll actually be a little bit faster and even a little bit smoother. You could, of course, also, if you like blending with your finger, you can blend with your finger. I don't love getting too smudgy, but that's just me. You're the artist. Now I can start using some of my absolute darker values, so pressing really as hard as I can. Still trying to be neat. All right, so there's my finished iceberg. Now you can keep adding some really cool details to this. I would love to see you add some of those Arctic animals that we saw really depend on icebergs and glaciers for their habitat, their food, their survival. You could add some polar bears. You could add some animals under the water. You could even add some prehistoric sea animals. That might be really cool. I would love to see what you add. Thanks for watching. And here is a version in crayon, so you can see what that might look like in color. You can see that I colored the ocean, and I used a couple different types of blue, but again, I still have that value, right? I've got dark, kind of medium light, and of course, I still have the white. So it's up to you how you want to do your icebergs.